Welcome, everybody. This is Starting Out Bright, and I am Noreen Savage. Thank you for being here. And just before we get started, I want you to know, first of all, I am nobody official with Bright Line Eating, but I do love the program. And just to tell you a little bit about myself, how I got started, I was 270 pounds looking through Facebook one day, and I saw my friend Lori post that she had lost 57 pounds. And she said, if anybody wanted to know how to do this, to just get a hold of her by messenger. So my hot little fingers scrambled over to messenger as fast as they could. And Lori told me about a book called Bright Line Eating. And it's written by Dr. Susan Pierce Thompson. And in the book is described 4 bright lines that you don't cross. No sugar, no flour, 3 meals a day, weighed in measured portions. And when I heard all that, I was sunk. I thought, absolutely no way could I do that. I felt even a grief thinking about it. But Lori just, assured me it's really not as bad as you think. And if you want to go for lunch, let's do that. I did. And she told me to do 2 things. That her suggestions were to, 1, get the book, and 2, to get into the Bright Line community. And by that, I mean there are many private groups. At the time, We Eat Bright with Lines was the one she suggested, and I did get in there. But we have Starting Out Bright, which is associated with these Zoom chats. There are many other groups, recipe groups, exercise groups, all kinds, faith-based groups, all kinds of groups. So anyway, I got in the group, and I am just floored, because what I'm seeing is transformation after transformation. People losing weight, a lot of weight. And as I said, I was 270 pounds. So this was something that I had struggled with was losing weight. But people were losing 50, 100, 150 pounds. And I told myself that if I lasted 1 year doing Bright Line Eating, that I would do the same thing my friend Lori did. I would post on my 1-year anniversary and help anybody I could. Well, the year came up. I was sitting right in that chair back there and wondering, what could I post to inspire someone? I'm a Christian, and I felt God say, Noreen, you can do more than that. The year was 2020. I had started July 2019, and now we were in a full-blown pandemic, watching Zooms almost every day. And the idea came, if I could just connect those people who so willingly shared their story, if I could connect them with those who needed the hope and the help, like I did, wouldn't that be great? But who would come? Who would be willing to tell their story? Well, I'll tell you who. It's people like Suzanne, our guest tonight. And we're going to have a lot of fun because she has a great story to tell too, as every single person does, their very own story. And so please help me welcome Suzanne Fricke. Hi, Suzanne. I'll give you a chance to say hi too.
Thank you. Thank you for having me tonight.
Well, I'm so glad that you're here. And I kind of glossed over some of the things. As I said, I was 270 pounds, but along with that, there is more than just the numbers on the scale. There's the snoring, there's the achy joints, the excruciating pain, all that kind of stuff. But I'm now 95 pounds lighter, not to goal, but I have, really felt great for a long time. So I wanted to find out all about you, Suzanne, like how you got started, where you are now, and all the rest. So first of all, how did you come to do Bright Line Eating? As I said, it's kind of a shock when you find out this strict,
Yeah.
program, but then you find out it's not as strict as you feel it's going to be. So where were you?
Well, It was May 2nd of it was a year ago, 2022. Well, May 2nd's when my day one. But anyway, so I figure it was probably April sometime. And I had a horrible back injury. Still do, but managing it. And I was so heavy. I mean, and I wasn't at my heaviest, but I was 268, I think, something like that, or 86, something. Anyway, I was up there. It was 286. Anyway, I'll never forget that day. I was laying down in my bed, and I had joined a 12-step group online because I had been through a 12-step group before, years and years and years ago, for eating addiction. And I on there, someone put a question out on this Facebook 12-step group, and they said, how do you keep from binging? And another person, and I wish now I knew who that was so I could go back and thank them, said, the book Bright Line Eating by Dr. Susan Pierce Thompson. I read the book. You've got to get it. Well, you can imagine, I was like, how is a book going to keep me from binging? But I was willing to go to any lengths. And so I was grasping at straws right away. I downloaded the book on Audible, and I basically binge listened. And I remember I would listen to it until fall asleep and then have to go back and re-listen to things. And it changed my life. I knew there was a background having been through a 12-step program. So I knew that sugar and flour were issues. I knew that. I also knew that I needed to be weighing and measuring my food, having been in a 12-step program. But there wasn't, I had a sponsor in that 12-step program, basically, that gave me a food plan that she had been on before. But if I were to go back to that program today, I knew there was no food plan. I mean, really, they just kind of said, do what you feel is, well, my little Coco doesn't work right when it comes to food. So there is no doing what I feel is right, because I can't.
Oh, so you're saying that the program that your sponsor gave you, it had the food that might even have been similar to what we do now, but there wasn't bounded quantities? Is that what
the food plan that she gave me, that her sponsor gave her, yes, there was bounded quantities. Okay. But there were things in that food plan that wouldn't work for me now and didn't work for me then. I just didn't know why.
Okay. And I think that, we talked the other day, and one thing that we agreed on too is, with reading the book, is not even just about the food plan. It's about getting this science and the why in your head. Like, once that downloaded, I literally shut the book and said, I'm going to get thin. But the rest of that story was, I shut the book and didn't even read the food plan because I found the chart. I found a chart in the We Eat Right with Lines group, just one in the files. And so for the next 5 weeks or so, I studied that chart. I was so sold on the science that whatever was after that, I was gonna do it. And so I did go back and read it several times, and I've listened to it by audio too. But so it was really the science piece of it. I can only imagine you here's the program, but you don't know why you're doing it. And that makes a big difference.
You know, the why and the science behind it did. It made all the difference to me. Now, I can't particularly verbalize the science to other people because I've tried, I'm just not real good at relaying, but it just made so much sense to me. I knew. So,
and may I ask too, because I think this is an important piece in your story from what you were telling me the other day, why you even ended up going to the 12-step program. Can you go back a little bit, if you don't mind?
I sure will.
As far as where did this really begin?
Absolutely. So I had, and there's a little bit even further than that I just didn't even think about telling you the other night. Trauma response is huge. Mm-hmm. And I have a lot of trauma response stuff because, and it's no fault of anybody's, but I go back to being adopted as an infant. And, I've got beautiful, wonderful parents. I even have a relationship with my biological mother now. Okay. But the reality of that is I spent 28 days in a foster home. So there's stuff there too. And our body, and that's one of my favorite books, The Body Keeps Score. So anyway, our body does all kinds of things. But anyway, I have been in codependent relationships my whole life. And so when I was married to my children's father, he was going through treatment for alcoholism, and I was going to get him fixed. And so I went to this codependency treatment program, and they were asking us our story, much like you are tonight. And I said, well, I'm here because, my husband's an alcoholic. And this counselor, I will never forget him. I think he was probably one of the smartest men I ever knew. He said, okay. And although in the moment it was offensive to me, I'm so thankful. He said to me, so why are you heavy? Wow. What do you mean, why am I heavy? Wow. Rude. And I said, so we got to talking, and there were so many things that came out that, that I had suppressed as an infant, as a child, and I just continued. And for the better part of my adult life, I continued in these relationships that were very codependent and very, just one addiction after the other. And if it wasn't a relationship addiction, it was food. I never really was addicted to drugs and alcohol, but I was addicted to nicotine. Just all kinds of.
It's really interesting. And, the codependency piece, I think, is way not understood. I read a book recently called Codependent No More. And it's by, I believe, Melody Beattie. Amazing book. Seriously. Mm-hmm. Even if you don't think you're codependent, read the book, because I had heard it here from several people. And I'm like, I got to read this book. And I found it very fascinating and right on point. Some of the people pleasing pieces with codependency, some of the, what do they call it? Halo to pitchfork. Like, you can, be the sweetest person, but then it's the very things that are frustrating you so much. Yeah. So you can be like an angel, but at the next point be so off the rails, So yeah, the whole codependency piece and all of this, I think, really plays a big piece. So then you got into 12-step, and you even told me the other night that even as a child, you realized that you had some kind of connection with food, which was amazing that you said it was like your first recollection of anything, right?
Yeah. I stole a cinnamon roll out of my grandmother's kitchen. My grandmother was huge into baking. And I mean, she just was, oh, she was such a beautiful homemaker. And I remember, and there was no reason she'd have let me have one if I'd asked. But I was headed out the back door to go, we had a dairy farm, and I was headed out the back door. I was going to go and see my dad in the milk barn. And I, on my way out, grabbed a cinnamon roll and put it under my shirt and went out the back door. And she caught me, and she wasn't mean or anything, but her whole thing was, why would you do that? All you had to do was ask.
Yeah.
So there was a problem as a young child with food early on.
To really understand that, I can only imagine. Seriously. So anyway, you got into the program. Did you just read the book, or did you get into like the group? What did you
Right, my eating?
Yeah, I know you read the book, and
I read the book, or I listened to the book, and then I honestly did. I dove in, with both feet. I jumped all the way in, and I became a member. It's not for everybody, but I am a subscribed member, only because I use so much of it all the time. But yeah, I did. I needed it with every part of me. And I'm in a Gideon's Game group that, Noreen, when I tell you, I can't even hardly talk about these ladies. Oh my goodness. They are absolutely my saints on earth. I joined before I even started Gideon Games. I put a thing out on I think the Facebook group, and I may have even put it in this group, that I was looking for a mastermind group. I just really craved and needed community, and fast. And my husband says, I'll talk to anybody that'll stand still long enough. And he's not lying. And so I was looking, and a beautiful group of women out of Florida welcomed me with open arms into their mastermind group. And I am here to tell you, I am so blessed. One of these women became my buddy, and we talk a lot. And she is just very into a lot of the things I'm into. I try very hard to do natural things, if possible, medically or whatever, as far as my health. And so I had this horrible back injury, and she said to me, have you ever heard of Rolfing? And I said, Rolfing? No, I've never heard of that in my life. Noreen, I am here to tell you that has been the biggest blessing. A Rolfer massages the fascia in the body. And for my back, and I have an old ankle injury that I've never had range of motion in. And this Rolfer has been able to help me beyond. So, I mean, this community has just done so much for me in so many different ways. And, my buddies are just absolutely fabulous.
So
all of them.
Because I am so not aware of what Rolfing is, Rolfing. You had told me that the other night, but we didn't get deeply into it. So when you say the fascia, is that like the tissue, the
tissue? You know how you go to like a chiropractor and they adjust your bones or
Yeah.
joints or whatever they do. Anyway, a rolfer massages and kind of adjusts the tissue.
Hmm.
And I I just I had I mean, when she told me about it, she was having troubles with her shoulder and lifting her shoulder and things. Well, I was having the exact same issue when I went to him. And I thought, okay, we're going to test him. I'm a big tester. And I told him about it. He worked on that shoulder twice. You can see I have no trouble.
Wow. And so you have really well, how's the ankle?
The ankle it's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. I've got, I think, 9 screws, a plate. I mean, it's a bad injury. It was broken in 4 places and dislocated. When I looked down, it was laying on top. My foot was laying on top of my leg. It was pretty bad.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And that's as a child?
No, I was 21.
Oh
21. It was sad because I loved to dance and everything. And it took, but he has given me back so much range of motion that I am out on my trail walking at least the very minimum 3 mornings a week at 5 o'clock.
That's
behind
so fantastic.
In my neighborhood. Yeah.
Just in
I have not been able to
my
do that.
brief time in the last 6 months because of shingles and it kind of descended into my foot, I have just a tiny awareness of what you may have gone through with, if your foot is wrong, it throws off your back and it throws off your gait and you just start becoming miserable just trying to walk straight.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you've gotten some help for that. And wow, I'm gonna have to check that out. That's really amazing. So,
Yeah, I had plantar fasciitis and it took twice. And then, of course, he sent me home with the old racquetball to roll my foot around on. And I'm good. He worked on it a little bit today, but I told him, I said, you don't need to. I'm good. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. He's not a, voodoo miracle, whatever, but it's worked for me. And I'd have never known about it without Helene. So, I'm just so thankful for the people in this community.
And we didn't even get into the food yet. And
yeah,
really helped you. So what are you doing for your program? Like, what has been the most beneficial thing, a practice or whatever that you have started or you continue every day? What is your bag? What do you do?
My habit stack.
Okay.
Has and I don't know. She doesn't call herself my habit stack guide. I call her my habit stack guide, my spiritual advisor, I just love her. But I saw her on a Zoom and reached out and I said, I want what you have. And, so I said, I have trouble with my habit stack and I want to be more spiritual. I'm a Christian. I want to do these things that are so important to me. And I've got the lazies and I know that it will help me. And so I kind of went off what she did. And so then, and I mean, she does, hers is much neater because I don't have a printer at home and stuff. So I just write my stuff down that I do. And I send that to her every night and say, I got this done. I got this done. I got this done. Oopsie, didn't get my bed made today. I'm raw and honest because I feel like in this program, if we can't be honest with ourselves first, then we have, and of course with our buddies, our guides, our whoever else, then it isn't going to work. And we've been hiding food our whole lives. We've been hiding our issues, our problems, our stuff, you know?
Yeah. The
It's time to
trauma that
be
you're
raw.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you just now mentioned like make your bed and stuff. Again, these are outside things that do, in our life to keep us going. And you said that you actually look to some other things to help you with your food program. And one of them, I believe, was the Tasty Freedom cookbook.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When it first came out, I'd only been in just a couple months or even because she just had her year anniversary.
By
So
she, it's Lori Lundgren. Lori's
yes,
actually on
Lori
tonight,
Lundgren.
so
Yes,
I'll point that out.
we are blessed to have her and her in this her talents in this community. But yeah, I didn't know what to eat. I mean, I did, and I still do try to keep it pretty simple. But that's the nice thing about her cookbook is it is pretty simple, you know, and sometimes depending on how I'm doing, I am careful about maybe baking something that might resemble not my food. But there are things in her cookbook that, I mean, you can choose from that don't.
Oh
As
yeah.
far as, so anyway, and there's times I'm absolutely fine to do a breakfast bake.
Mhm.
Just honestly, it depends on where I'm at and where my hormones are. But yeah, I mean, I love Lori Lundgren's cookbook and the
Yes.
amazing cheese sauce. I remember I was new in the program, and I got the book and I made the amazing cheese sauce and it was so good. And then my mouth started itching and my throat started itching. And I'm like, the only thing in there that I've never had before was the nutritional yeast. So I texted her and I said, Lori, what can I do instead of that? And she goes, I don't know of anything. I was like, well, okay then. So I just do it without it. And it's great. It's still yummy. I love it.
That's fantastic. I'll just share a little story. I made the mozzarella sticks, which is a breakfast food. And I had it all set because it was going to be for the next day and I could just microwave it, had it in the fridge. I came home and my granddaughter ate it with her dad. And I'm like, well, Charlie, you know what? You're going to have to help grandma make another one. And honestly, she made it. I mean, I watched her. I told her what goes next. But at 8 years old, she was actually able to put it together with my direction. Now, I call that amazing. Really amazing
Absolutely. It's
that
simple.
somebody could at 8 years old put this together. And it was fantastic. And so she felt so proud that she could do that and make it herself. I just
Great.
thought I'd throw that in, but I've tried many of these recipes and they're fantastic. So big shout out to Lori. And it's in case you're listening by podcast, I just want to say, where is I'll look it up, but I gotta find the website. I'll look that up. But anyway, the other one I wanted to mention too, because you said that Deanna's group has been very instrumental to you.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And, the thing I will say about these women and Deanna and Lori both, I'm not kidding you. And another one that's fabulous that has helped me so much is Deb Babcock.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if I have any questions, I just send them a message and they are always so sweet to get back to me and say, this is what I do. And I mean, I can't imagine trying to do this without some of our, people in here that are just A, so talented, and B, just so sweet and kind and just welcoming.
And seriously, the resources that you couldn't really explore on your own. And they give and they give and they give, these people who have put out recipes. I just want to give that website in case someone's listening by podcast. It's mygfsfkitchen.com. So like GF is gluten-free, sugar-free. So mygfsfkitchen.com. And that's where you can get Tasty Freedom Cookbook, or you can go to, for Deanna, it is nsnfnp.com. So it's no sugar, no flour, no problem.com. Okay, so we got that. And I just say explore those. Just, they're fantastic. You got to check out Deanna's easy egg bake. There's an egg rice bake scramble thing. She's got veggie party in your mouth thing. It's like all good. So check that out. But anyway, so here we are. You've got the food, you've got everything going. So is there anything that you struggle with? Because you told me that you're pretty bright. Like,
I am.
You've lost like 90 pounds in 1 year. This is amazing.
Yeah, I am. I've not broken my lines, and I'm here to say I don't think for 1 second that I am any better or further above it. I will tell you, I know me. And I really led for probably the first 9 months of my program, a fear-based program, because I knew that I had a real issue. And if I were to break my lines, I have so much respect and love for people who can resume instantly. And I've seen some phenomenal strength in my buddies and things that can turn around and resume. I don't know if I could, Noreen. That's what keeps me bright.
Okay.
Because I'm scared of my own brain.
It's kind of like know thyself. You know yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're high on the susceptibility scale, probably then. And
10 plus. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
That's not a bad thing to know. It's really, if you're not playing games about it in your head, like what you know. And from what you said earlier, you already have been around like the addiction piece when you went to counseling. I mean, we bring this to other addictions, and you would not expect an alcoholic to just have a nip on the weekend, or drug addict to have some drugs just on Fridays or whatever. I mean, so, whatever we can say to ourselves to get into our head, no exceptions. When we talked the other day, you said that one of Susan's blogs, which I understand from what you were saying, you do a lot of free resources too. So
yeah,
blog
I do.
that you mentioned to me was intermittent reinforcement.
Yes.
And I will tell you, that vlog came at the perfect time for me personally. I had been bright for quite a while, but then I started getting a little bit cocky, like, this is not so bad. And so it was a nibble here of compliant food or there. And then that vlog came. And I don't know if you want to talk about it, how it reacted or what it's about. I can give the little skinny on it.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
If you haven't listened to this blog, I would suggest you get to it on YouTube. But basically, Susan talks about that our brains we can detox from sugar and flour, whatever, but let's just say sugar and flour. And so the brain, the neural pathways are clear, we're all good. And guess what? The cravings go away. We're not thinking about sugar and flour or the
Right.
cinnamon roll, right? We're
Right.
just we're just actually glad of finally a great brain and peace. But then if you do like what I did and think, oh, well, that's so easy now, I think I'll just have a piece of cheese or some nuts or whatever. Well, now the brain is saying, oh, there's an exception here.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes into a whole big rat study and stuff that literally now in the rat study, if you reintroduce the item, the food pellet,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, it's going to go back, and then it's going to go back again, and 1,000 times it'll go back.
Yep.
So the more you play that game, you're opening up the brain waves to reinforce that thought. Like, I think, so I go get it. I think, so I go get it.
Yep.
Instead of you just stop thinking about it when you have a clean brain, clean of the craving. And so then it stops again. So you just don't want to wake up that sleeping giant that wants to mess your sanity, the peace.
Right.
Like that.
Exactly. And I let you say it because I knew I'd mess it up.
Well, the funny thing too is that, I mentioned this to the kids one time. I mean, I have older kids now, but I talked one time about, when you were little, you kids were so good. We'd go to the store and you wouldn't even ask for anything. I was just always amazed. And one of them goes, Mom, what are you talking about? You always said no. So we quit asking. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the intermittent reinforcement. If you always say no, the brain's going to stop asking.
You won that battle. I don't think mine ever quit asking.
You must have given in once. That's all I
Probably more than once.
So anyway, you feel like it's sustainable. You don't have.
I do.
And how do you then, because you've been bright for a year, you must have gone into like family gatherings and all that kind of stuff. How do you manage that?
I just manage it, I guess. We had my son's wedding, and this is kind of a funny story I'll tell quickly. When he came to me, and him and his wife now came to me and said, Mom, we're finally getting married and everything. I was right smack in the middle of my addiction. And I'm like, I'll pay for the cake. I've got the perfect cake lady. And I mean, I do. Her cakes are to die for if you do that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't care price. So I haul these kids in. They have this elaborate cake tasting and everything. And they order, and I'm like, sky's the limit. I'll pay whatever. Okay. And believe me, I did. Except for I started BLE and got bright in that time. Well, what am I going to say? Okay, never mind. We're having Walmart. No. So I end up paying for this phenomenal, huge cake. And we get to the venue and everything. Well, my son was under the impression that the venue had somebody, or the caterer would cut the cake. No. So he looks at me, Mom, will you cut the cake, please? So here I am, elbows deep in this cake. And my oldest daughter was so cute. She was just like, Mom, she could just see it on my face. And so she came and she was helping me cut this cake. And I had, had it from all over my hands and whatnot. And I've never been so glad to wash my hands in all my life. I ran straight to the bathroom. But, and I had pecs. I had pecs bad for probably 2-3 days after that wedding. And I learned a lot, though, from that. And I was able to stay bright through it. But I learned to have, a an event or after traveling or whatever, have your food ready, that you don't have to think about anything. I struggled. I mean, I'm a tough cookie and I white knuckled through it, but it just wasn't a fun time
Well,
at all.
someone asked in the chat, what is PECS? And Lori provided post-event collapse syndrome. So
Yeah.
you might stay bright at the event, for those who are wondering, what does that mean? But afterwards, your brain is like making up for lost time. Like, oh, you were so good, but you're still struggling with those emotions. So what you're saying is you learned a lot. You didn't pack anything for the wedding day. I mean,
No, I ran home during the cocktail hour.
oh, you did. So you had ready to go at home. Must not have been too far away. You went home and ate. Now think about that. You're talking about a wedding. And I have found in talking with other people, you know what? Just pack something, put it in a cooler. You can always excuse yourself and go outside to the car or whatever. And
I was so mad at him over that deal that I almost went rolling in there with my big orange pole behind me cooler, because I said to him, kids, and especially, they just don't get it. And I said, son,
okay.
as far as he's concerned, mom's on a diet, so
Yeah.
I said, can I have the name of your caterer? Can you ask, my daughter-in-law's mom to give me the name or whatever, so I can contact them to, do everything that SPT says to do. Mom, I don't want you bugging the caterer over your diet. I said, it's not a diet. And okay then. And I was really hurt over that. I had to journal on it for like 3 days. And I finally spoke with my habit stack guide, that she says she's not, but she is. She's just a dolly. But anyway, and she said, our families didn't ask for this. Yeah. We gotta sometimes just give them grace. And I'm like,
you know what? Here's the other thing. When I think about all of these times that someone might even be surprised that I'm still doing this. Number one, and probably you do the same, I don't expect anybody to make special food for me. I know that when I go somewhere, it's up to me to bring something that's compatible to me, just as if I were vegan or pescatarian or whatever. Nobody else has asked, for me to do this, so why should I? And the other thing is, just going by my own history, how many times have I been on a diet? If they would have even planned on something special, I might be off the diet that weekend.
Right.
So there's no way I would not have indulged in the cake, right?
Right.
So again, a lot of this with us, I think, is this history that we carry with us because of maybe decades of dieting. And we do need to give people grace. They didn't ask, but I will say that after a while, it does become more and more believable as you do stay bright and you still get closer to your right size body, which you've got to be very close, if not there already, with losing 90 pounds. You must be like almost in maintenance.
Well, I have started making ads. I've started landing the plane. What my brain and what the BMI charts say and things, I would like to go another 22 pounds. I am not sure. My doctor went, she said, but she doesn't understand bright line eating either. And but I, at the same time, I don't want to be too thin. And I did start making ads with guidance and things because I have spoken to so many people who didn't make ads and who ended up losing their lines because their body was screaming for more food and they weren't listening. They had, and I can get ridiculous crazy around the scale too.
Well, didn't you say
So
you've kind of been struggling with that too? And right now with being hungry?
yeah, and not now because I with some guidance added extra fat and with on a coaching call um they had me add in a half protein. Then I went through, I'm perimenopausal, so I went up some on the scale. And so then I freaked out and called in again on a coaching call, and we took the half protein out. And then I was starving, so we added it back in. And you know what? So this last time when I added the fat, and I've added a full protein now at breakfast, I made a full how do I say it, commitment with the buddy slash guide. She's also in my Gideon Games team, that we would not change anything for a month. So that was June 4th. So on the 4th of July, we'll look at it and see where I'm at.
And now, did you add all of that to breakfast, or have you spread it out through the day?
The full protein is at breakfast. So I have 2 proteins at breakfast. And then I have added a fat to breakfast. And then I have 2 fats at dinner.
Wow. That
So
should hold you a little bit then.
yeah, I'm satiated now. And the last Sunday, when I weighed, I had a whoosh and I was down.
Wow.
I don't know.
I like that word, whoosh.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But, I'm having to find a lot of journaling. I can get really nuts around the scale.
Yes, that's a common problem, to be so hyper focused on the body scale instead of the one on the counter for food scale. I want to just quickly add it there. I mentioned the Deanna's group and Lori's cookbook. There's also some other places. You mentioned Deb Babcock. Deb's Delicious Dinners is on Facebook.
Yes.
Get Healthy Grandma is on Facebook. Recipe Ideas, No Sugar, No Flour is on Facebook. I'm probably forgetting some, so if you put them in the chat, I'll try to get them out there too. But here we are close to the end, Suzanne, and through all this time, 90 pounds in about a year's time. When I was on diets a million times, the ideal was to lose about 2 pounds a week. Well, you did it. I mean, seriously, that's a consistent weight loss. But there's more than just the weight. What would you say are some of the non-scale victories that you've experienced?
Oh my goodness. I used to have this friend. Well, we're still very good friends. She lives in Houston. She's always been super tall and thin and just gorgeous. And she used to cross her legs and then kind of tuck her foot up under the calf of her leg, kind of almost double cross. And I used to watch that. And one day I was sitting here in my office working, and I did it. And I was like, I just did it just like Susan. And, silly things like that. But, I have never been able to see sunlight between my thighs. And I did today when I was walking into Rolfing. And, you know, little silly things. I mean, I have a granddaughter who is, she is actually, we've adopted her. She's Sudanese. And anybody who knows the Sudanese people know that she's thin, you know, very, very. I wore her sweatshirt the other day and she came over. It was so funny. She came after school and she calls me Nina. She goes, Nina, do you have my sweatshirt on? I said, yeah. I'm always cold now. That's one thing about being thinner. I don't know if anybody else went through that, but I freeze. But yeah, just all kinds of, I'm going to fly for the first time since I've lost weight in September. And I can't wait,
That would not be something I wanted to do before at all.
Yeah.
That's
I
the
mean,
last
I
thing.
never wanted to, but I did it anyway because I like to get where I'm going and have more time. But another thing, I don't even now, when I was heavier, a lot of times I would drive around town. Hope there's no cops on here with my seatbelt off and just listening to the buzzer in my vehicle dinging at me, but it was not worth dealing with putting that seatbelt on. It just wasn't. I didn't care.
To take
I don't even
that
think
risk.
about it now. I just put it on.
And I know you mentioned about diabetes.
Oh my goodness, yes. I am totally off of, I was on insulin. I was on 56 units of insulin a day. I was on metformin, 2 metformin pills twice a day. I was on 1,000 twice a day of metformin, and I was on Trulicity, and I am on none of it now. None of it.
Gosh, that is absolutely amazing. That's breathtaking.
It is
So fantastic.
I just want to, and I want to, stand on the rooftops and scream, type 2 diabetes is 100% reversible. Do something. You can do this.
Yes. Oh, wow. If even one person hears that and takes it to heart. And Lisa's saying, congratulations, your skin is glowing. Your skin. I mean, truly. And I want to say about the skin too, as we lose weight, especially if we're coming from bigger numbers, the BMI chart, I don't think takes into consideration skin. Skin does weigh something, and it's not going to just snap back right away. So, as you start feeling better with your ankle and your back and can walk further and do that, the skin may snap back. I know for me, as I'm walking more, it's helped a lot. And I just think that number on the BMI chart has some wiggle room when we're talking about losing a lot of weight. It just has to, because, your skin, largest organ in your body, right?
And I have, exactly. And I do, I thought someone had said in the beginning that there was a Facebook group for people that had lots of skin or whatever. And I looked for it and I never found anything for, bright line eating or whatever. But, I don't, and I do. I mean, and thank you for saying that about my skin glowing, because I'm just, of course, I'm like a deflated balloon, I mean, and so I've got lots of wrinkles I didn't have before everywhere, my arms, my legs, but God is good. And it's like my daughter said to me one day, Mom, you can either have the empty skin or have it full of the adipose tissue. What do you want? You know?
So
I'll take
we have the comment from Deb. Thankfully, we aren't nudists. Clothes help.
There you go.
Spanx helps too. So our
Yep.
final question. Oh, Lori says a deflated balloon is the sign of a good party.
That's cute. I love that.
I gotta put that on a sign.
Yes,
A deflated balloon is a sign of a good party.
that is so true.
So here we are, the last question for you, Suzanne. You've been through a lot, and it sounds like you're still working on the inner work, that doesn't go.
Oh, yeah.
We still got to keep going with that. And you're relatively early in this journey, really, 1 year about.
Yeah, I'm just getting started.
What would you say to somebody who's thinking about giving this a try?
You're going to make me cry. Just do it. You're worth it. You're worth it. And, I guess that I'm just begging somebody out there to find their own self-worth. Because, I've had to learn with the people closest to me to keep my eyes on my own plate and let them find their own way. And so if there's somebody out there that this could reach, I just would be so thrilled.
I'm sure that there will be. You're a walking testimonial for type 2 diabetics right now. And for those who really want to have a better life, we can be imprisoned with obesity, really, from, like not being able to cross our legs is the smallest thing, much more severe situation as you gain more and more weight. I know it was for me that, time's up, and then the body parts start saying, nope, can't do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I had with excruciating knee pain. But I can only imagine with back pain that if you have the extra weight, even though when you said the other day, you said something about you had told doctors that, they would say, just lose the weight and your back will be better. That's not always the case.
No, that was, and to tell you the truth, I called their bluff.
You lost the weight.
Yeah. And I went back and they went, it's just.
But you are finding help with the rolfing and walking and, and keeping up this bright life, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And
you can do.
And I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, as much pain as I still have, if I had all that sugar in my body, I can't imagine the inflammation and pain. Right. You know what I mean? It would have to be worse.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much, Suzanne. It's been so wonderful to meet you, to get to know you. I appreciate you sharing your story and sharing some really good information, interesting information, and hope with so many. And just again, thank you. Any last words?
Just everybody, just keep up the great work. We have got this. And Noreen, thank you for your tireless work doing all that you do. You are so appreciated by this community. You were one of the very, very first, places I joined and started listening, and it helped me so much. And I met my very first buddy in your group.
Wow.
We were sitting waiting for the group to start, and I said, hey, is somebody there? And I started talking to her, and
we became right on a Zoom.
Right on a Zoom.
Well, you know what? And then I just got to say, for every single person, and many of them are here right now, who have shared their story, we wouldn't be doing this without you and all of them. And all those who have come in, each time and spread the word. I mean, you're all spreading hope. So thank you so much, Suzanne. And thank you all for being here. I appreciate you so much. So I'm going to close as I do each week. Good night. Stay bright. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Good night, everybody. So, Suzanne, how would you like to play 3-Question Thursday?
I'd love to.
All right. So you mentioned your favorite vlog was the one about intermittent reinforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other resources? And I realize that you've taken on a lot with the BLE official groups. Are there any other free resources that you've been checking out that you have found in or just even the book or anything?
As far as I would have to say, there has been a few different things. And as far as I want to go to books, because one thing I heard on your on here,
Okay.
on another one was my one thing, or the one
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
Okay.
Wendy's
So
over here. She's
yeah,
doing one
Wendy's
thing.
on here. And I listened to that.
Okay.
And so I'm implementing that into my life. Do one thing. And then another one is, of course, No Bad Parts. I'm listening to that right now because I'm playing with I'm learning to do some parts work. And then the other one, I wrote them down. The other one, The Body Keeps Score. You
Okay.
guys. Yes. I mean, that we got to learn to understand how our traumas, you know, affect us, and then learn how to heal it so that we can move on and be happy, thin, and free.
Well, I borrowed that book from the library on an Audible kind of library, but I didn't read it in time to read the whole thing. So I gotta get it back, but it goes back to the library if you don't order it or get it read in time. So that's one that I'm going to read for sure now after you saying that. Here's question number 2. We talked a little bit about food and how, especially, some of the groups and like my GFSF kitchen and Deanna's No Sugar, No Problem, all those great groups. Do you do any prepping? Any like on a daily basis, weekly? What do you do?
So we're going out of town this weekend. My husband's grandfather is turning 92. So I'm like, it was a spur of the moment decision to go. And I'm like, I don't have enough food prepped up. So this afternoon, that it was prep time, and that, and I don't want to have to think about eating. That eating out might happen maybe once, but I just don't want to have to rely on finding my food there and whatever. So it's really funny that you were talking about Deanna's oh gosh, Deanna, forgive me, what is it? What is the party?
Veggie party.
Anyway, her
Veggie party.
Yeah. That's basically what happened this afternoon for my breakfast. I mean, yes, I food prep all the time.
Okay.
And that's my favorite time to sit and listen to my stuff is while I'm prepping. So
That's fantastic. I know for me, the one thing has really become do my lunch each day. It sounds so simple, but boy, it's a game changer.
mhm.
I have that one thing done.
Yeah.
And the third question, this is last question for all the money, all the marbles. You mentioned a few minutes ago, I had to journal on that for quite a while. Journaling must be very special to you. Do you make it a daily practice or just when you want to get your thoughts down just occasionally?
Honestly, I do some type of journaling daily, whether it be 5-year, whether it be, you know, sometimes I'm so exhausted by the end of the day. It's like, what was your favorite, best part of today? And it's like that I get to go to bed night.
Yeah.
I mean, but that is part of my habit stack. And so no matter what, pen goes to paper. Um, and it's called permission to be human if you're tired. But if I'm bugging, I will tell you that I just start writing. And I have had some really hard things happen since I've been doing, my program, but I do. I journal it out.
I just agree. Like it took me getting a guide. You know how you said you have a guide? I got a guide just to work on the 5-year journal because I wanted so badly to make it a habit. And now that I'm
Yeah.
over a year into it, I'm so glad
Yeah.
because now I get to see what was going on last year. And some things are pretty startling,
Yeah.
answered
Yeah.
prayers and just all kinds of things. So it's quite amazing. And then there are those little things that you didn't even realize you needed to work out in your brain and in your heart. And I totally agree. Even putting a few words down can recall where you were. So, yeah,
Oh, yeah. I mean,
it's
there are
pretty
so
amazing.
many things we can do. If we're hurt and frustrated with somebody, we can write them a letter and shred it. We can write God a letter. We can write, the younger Suzanne a letter to forgive her.
I love that.
You know, um,
That's a
there's just
great
all kinds
idea.
of, you know.
That's just a beautiful idea. I love that. There you go again. Inspirational.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Suzanne, thank you so much for again sharing your story, the inspiration, the information, and thank you for playing 3-Question Thursday. It's been a
Thank
blast. It's
you.
been great to get to know you. So you're welcome, and thanks everybody for being here.
Thanks for having me. Good
Good
night.
night.
Bye,
Good night.
everybody.